1 Kings chapter 3, verse 16 to 22. Two women that were harlots and stood before him. And the one woman said, "Oh my Lord, I and this woman dwell in one house, and I was delivered of a child with her in the house. And it came to pass the third day after that I was delivered, that this woman was delivered also, and we were together. There was no stranger with us in the house, save we two in the house. And this woman's child died in the night because she overlaid it. And she arose at midnight and took my son from beside me, while thy handmaid slept, and laid it in her bosom, and laid her dead child in my bosom. And when I rose in the morning to give my child suck, behold, it was dead. But when I had considered it in the morning, behold, it was not my son which I did bear." And the other woman said, "Nay, but the living is my son, and the dead is thy son." And this said, "No, but the dead is thy son, and the living is my son." Thus they spake before the king. Look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, "I have my joyful news." Give your neighbor a high 10 as you take your seat in the presence of God. Hallelujah. So this scripture is a scripture we know very well about the two harlots that met King Solomon. The king that you're referring to here is King Solomon. And if you can remember, King Solomon, this was the first thing that God did to show that he was with him. That was the first thing he needed to judge, or he had to judge at the time when he became king. And because of how well and right he judged the matter or the case, and the Bible tells us that everybody in the whole of Israel now considering like, wow, this man really has so much wisdom. God is really with him. But that is not our focus today. Our focus is the story that was told. I know that we know this story very well about the woman, the first harlot, which was the one that met the king and presented the case of what went on in the middle of the night between her and the other harlot. And two of them lived alone in the house. It was just the two of them. Now today, I know for sure, one thing I am sure of, I am very sure, I don't need your faith, is that you see what you are carrying your joyful news from this service. That one I am very sure of, very, very sure of. But you see, what I want us to look at right now is the actions that can destroy your joyful news. The actions you take that can destroy what? Your joyful news. Because whether you're carrying your joyful news in this second half of the year, do you know that this is the first Sunday in the second half of the year? First Sunday. And of all things God thought wise, or God put in the heart of our man of God, it is joyful news. That is one reason why I know that this second half of the year is starting with celebration for you and your family members. You didn't hear me. All that you have been waiting for since January to June, you are carrying it in July. You're carrying it in August. You're carrying it in September. Some people that think that party that is supposed to hold in December, you will be surprised. It will happen in August. It will happen in September. Look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, my party must hold. Oh, why do you have the wrong neighbor? Tell your neighbor, my party must hold. If you believe it, let your amen be the loudest. So it is already guaranteed that it's going to happen. But what are the actions you will take that may make you lose what God has brought to your hands? And the person I am interested in is that second harlot, the woman that went and took the living baby and kept the dead baby. I know usually we already conclude on her. Even me, I have concluded on her in my heart. As whenever I think about her, I just think about her as a wicked woman. She's just a wicked person. Who agrees with me? How can you do such a thing? You're just a wicked person. But there are things that we can learn from her life. And the first thing that came to my mind when I looked and considered this woman is that the Bible says that she laid on her child. She slept on her child and her child died. And I wonder, mothers in the house, please, how can you sleep on your child as in a newborn baby? If you are a mother, if you have been a mother, it does not make much sense to think that you will lie on a newborn baby and the baby, you did not just lie and realize you were lying. You laid till the point that the baby died under you. How could she have received such a joyful news? And yet she was the one that killed her joyful news with her own hands. Nobody came and did it for her. All on her own, she killed what God had done for her. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the first thing that comes to mind, because I know that as mothers, and especially her, I think she must have been a first-time mom. You know why I want to consider her as a first-time mom? The Bible tells us that when this woman was talking to the king, she actually told the king, nobody was living with us. We live alone. There's no stranger amongst us, just me and this woman. and our 2 newborn babies. So I want to think she's a first-time mom. First-time moms are usually more careful because you know what? When you even carry a baby, that baby is so fragile and delicate in your hands. Who agree with me? Even men that carry babies that have newborn, when you carry, you're doing like, this thing, will this thing not break in my hands? Some people don't want to carry newborn babies because they look so fragile. So how can you handle such a fragile thing? And do you know that whether in the old times and in today's society, that babies have a crib, they have a bed, babies have cot, babies have crib. Let us say that she's a prostitute and maybe she did not have money to buy a bed, because I know some of us, even till today, we don't put our babies in a separate bed. They lie on the same bed with us. Am I right? So let us say, for whatever reason, when you were putting that baby on the bed, you did not think that you can demarcate your bed somehow so that even when you want to cross over, you will feel something. I know as a mother, I can remember the experience that even when you just hear, in the baby, you will start to, you wake up, because you just know that if the baby does do, even you can call doctor and say, baby is just doing, and what does mean? Because it is your first time. So you are so careful because you are so careful. One of the major things that will make you lose your joy is when you lack sensitivity in your joyful new season. That season will come, but you must not lack sensitivity, because once you lack sensitivity in your joyful new season, you are likely to lose what God has given you. Do you know what sensitivity means in this regard? When you become careless with what God has done for you, then you can lose it. How could this woman be that careless? I cannot believe that she will lie on her baby and kill her baby. How careless were you? You did not even notice when the baby was struggling for life. What kind of sleep were you sleeping? You did not hear the muffling of the child. How careless could you be? After all the time you have prayed and waited for your victory, victory came, and what did you do? You slept on it. I have come to speak to someone today. You cannot be careless in the season of your joyful news. Do you know one way carelessness shows up? And I'm just going to talk about one because there's no time. It is by talking too much. You can be careless when you have diarrhea of the mouth. When you talk a lot, there are people you should never tell the things God is doing in your life. Hear me, church. I'm saying it and I mean it. There are people that should not know what the Lord is doing in your life. When there are people that have lost what God did or was about to do because of who they told. When you start talking to the wrong people, please, not everybody likes you. That they are smiling with you does not mean they are laughing with you. Most times they can be smiling with you, but they are laughing at you. Did you hear me? They can smile with you, but they are laughing at you. Sometimes when they come to see you and say, how are you? They are not really interested in how you are. They just want to be sure that that wicked thing and bad thing that is happening to you is still happening. Not because they want your victory or they want you to become happy. No. So not everybody that comes around you should be someone that you start sharing things with. And you know, there are people, you get pregnant. You start going around telling stories. I'm pregnant. And before you know it, you lose that pregnancy. You do not know that it is one of the persons you told that went and pressed something somewhere. They told you they were going to promote you in your workplace. You started telling your colleagues before the promotion came. And that's how you lost it. And you wonder, how did I lose this thing? I see people, you got a beautiful house, you build a beautiful house, you go to Facebook and you go and show the world see my house, and you start showing them inside. See, I am not saying we should not give testimony, but there are ways of doing things. There are people that don't like you. You must be strong enough to face this kind of people if you want to go about telling stories. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, because there are people. Say the story of Hezekiah in the Bible. Let us look at Hezekiah in the Bible. 2 Kings chapter 20, 12 to 17. We may not be able to read that story, but this story was a story where you can remember the story of Hezekiah, that he was sick, and Isaiah the prophet came and told him he was going to die. After Isaiah told him he was going to die, Hezekiah now turned his face towards God and cried, and God extended his life by 15 years. After God extended his life by 15 years, the Bible now says the king of Babylon came to see him. The king of Babylon came to see him because he was sick. He heard he was sick, and that was why he came. So he came to find out, how are you? Fellow king, how are you doing? And because he came to meet him, to ask him how he was, Hezekiah became careless with the things around him. His mouth started running. Oh yeah, come, let me show you. Hezekiah took him everywhere in the palace, took him into the temple, showed him everything, all the gold vessels and everything. And Isaiah came and said, what did you do? What did you do? Who came? He said, the king of, and what did you do? I took him around. How many places did you? I took him everywhere. And Isaiah told him, you see this thing you have done, this thing you have done, this is how they will come and they will take everything. Every single thing you showed them, they will take it. Did it happen? It happened. It did not happen in his lifetime, but it happened after he died. The king of Babylon came and took every single thing Hezekiah showed him. And you tell me, this man, when he came with the mindset of, how are you? So you think he's a good person. He's checking after me, my health. So why can't I talk to him? After he asks you, how are you? All you answer is, fine. Let it end there. Don't say more than that. You must be discerning. Hear me as I hear the Lord. You must discern your environment. You must discern the people around you. Raise your hand and say, oh Lord, I receive sensitivity in my season of joyful news. I will be discerning. I receive the spirit of discernment. I receive the spirit of discernment. Let your amen thunder. You must know who you're talking to. You must know the people that are around you. It is not everybody that is a friend. Please hear me clearly. It is only God that will help you to know who is who. And today I pray for somebody. If you have people around you that are pretending, let the Lord expose them by fire. Let the Lord expose them by fire. Before this week is over, the Lord will expose them in the name of Jesus. Let your amen thunder. Let your amen thunder. The second thing I want to mention is not being prepared. Not being prepared in your season of joyful news. We talk about preparation a lot in this service, and that is why it's easy to overlook what preparation is. We keep talking about it, but I doubt if we really do it. I stumbled on a story of a man, and he said for 3 years he kept praying the same prayer. For 3 years, every day he kept asking God for the same thing, and he never got the answer. Then 1 month he decided to pause. Instead of asking for that thing, he began to pray, Lord, prepare me for this thing I am asking for. And he said when he changed his prayer to, Lord, prepare me for this thing, he said in 1 month he got what he had been praying for 3 years. The same thing he prayed 3 years with no, every day. He said, I prayed the prayer every day. No result. But the moment I switched and started saying, Lord, prepare me for this thing, then that thing came. Oh, Mashata, I wonder about this woman. And I asked myself, wasn't she prepared for what was coming? How could you have carried a baby 9 months, gone through the struggles, gone through the discomfort, the change of diet, change of plan, sleeping pattern, all the rigors that comes with pregnancy? How didn't you know that when that baby now comes out, there is a way of doing things? Hear me. Preparation. Most times we prepare, but we are preparing amiss. You think you know how to prepare, but why don't you change the focus and start praying the prayer of preparation? Lord, prepare me for this thing, because you know what? There are things God can give you that can destroy you. There are things why God has not answered some of your prayers is that if he answers it, that thing can kill you. That thing can destroy you. That thing can take you from him. So that is why he is delaying. You know what that means? What it means is that it's not God that is delaying your answer. You are the one delaying the answer, because he needs to get you ready for what he wants to give you, so that what he gives you will not swallow you. But if you are not prepared, a lot of people God has blessed, and after the blessing, we cannot tell their story anymore. That's how they disappeared. Why? Because they were not ready for the blessing. But when you are ready, then when God puts it into your hands, it grows in your hands. It becomes more in your hands. God needs to prepare you. So that thing you are calling a delay will no longer be a delay. So our things, the things we say, oh God, you have not done yet, you have not done yet. For some of us, not all of us, some of us, it's just because I have not made you who I want you to be. There's somebody I need you to become through the experience. You have not become that person yet. So I need this experience to still be here. Why won't you change your prayer and say, God, You know that if I keep praying the way I like to pray, I will still be on this mountain. Oh yeah, like Papa taught us on Wednesday. Let me change it to tongues, so that I will begin to pray the right prayer, so that I can come out of this mess quickly. Because some places we are in, we are long overdue. We should have walked out of that place. But because we have not gotten the lesson that we should get in the experience, so we are staying longer than necessary. Check the scriptures and it will be clear. Hallelujah. Check the scriptures, you will see that what I'm saying is what it is. If only she knew better. And you know, one thing I understood from this place is that, yes, maybe she did not know, but her ignorance was not an excuse. That she did not know did not make the baby live. Why didn't God say, because she did not know she's supposed to lie down in a certain way, so because of that, baby will not die. But whatever she knew or did not know did not stop the baby from dying. Your ignorance will not spare you. It is not an excuse to misbehave. And ignorance, you know, there's something people say. They say, what I do not know will not harm me. When you say lie, permit me to say that thing you do not know will not only harm you, it will kill you, it will bury you. Ignorance is not an excuse. You must become aware. You cannot hide under the umbrella of I did not know. Why didn't you know? Because you know what? For every season of our life and for every level of our life, there are things we ought to know. So if you don't know what you ought to know when you are in that season, who will you blame? God brought opportunities for you to know, but you did not take advantage of them. So who will you blame at that point in time? Look, raise your hand and say, oh Lord, prepare me for what is coming. Oh, church, rise up. Say, oh Lord, prepare me for what is coming. Raise your hand, say, oh Lord, prepare me in the place of humility, in the place of knowledge, in building capacity, in wisdom for what is coming. If you believe it, shout louder, amen. Please take your seat. The same way you received what you have been waiting for is the same way you can lose it. The same way you received it. That's what this woman just showed us. The same way you received what you have been waiting for is the same way you can lose it. And that brings me to the next point. Guard your joyful news. There is a guarding of joyful news. When joyful news comes, it is not the time to go to bed. Don't go and sleep. Her joyful news showed up. She went to sleep and she slept on it. It is not the time to sleep. When that joyful news comes, you must set up security systems to ensure that you don't lose it. You know why? You know why? Because the enemy is not happy. Can you remember the testimony last week on NSPPD? The lady for 17 years that had been waiting, she had not had a child, never been pregnant. So that you understand what I'm saying. This lady never was pregnant. But when she now became pregnant, she said when she's sleeping, it was when she's sleeping, someone will come and start hitting her stomach. Boop, 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 boop. Pregnant woman, she'll wake up, she's bleeding. And she'll go to hospital, they say the baby's intact. But see, she was sleeping. It always happened only when she was sleeping. It did not happen when she was awake. While men slept, the enemy went and sowed tares. When you are sleeping, it is that time of vulnerability. If the men were awake, the enemy wouldn't have been able to go and sow tares. I am sure they would have stopped the enemy. I'm sure they wouldn't have allowed him continue. But because they slept, when you sleep, you know what you do? When you sleep, you give control to the next person. When you sleep, hear me, you give control. Another thing you do is when you sleep, you allow free movement. People can move in and move out when you sleep. Stay awake. Look at your neighbor. Tell your neighbor, I am not going to sleep. When your joyful news comes, you know what I mean? I hope you understand what I'm saying. Because when your joyful news comes, you begin to celebrate and relax. And you cross your leg and say, it has happened. Hey, the way you were praying before he came, continue to pray like that. Because there is an enemy that say, how did this thing happen? I want to believe that woman that they were hitting her stomach, it must be somebody close to her. It must be someone she say, was I sleeping when she took in? Where was I? And she took him. Oh yeah, okay, this baby, boom, 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 you will come out. So at times when God wants to give us some miracles, he puts our enemies to sleep. And as they are sleeping, he does it for you. Meaning that they will still wake up. They will still wake up. So when they wake up, make sure you're already guarding what has come. Hallelujah. Who believes, who trusts what I'm saying? Who knows that God is visiting you? And as God visits you, see what he's doing. You will not lose it. If you know you will not lose it, rise up on your feet. Say, I will not lose it. I will not lose my joyful news. I will not lose my joyful news. I cannot hear you shout, I will not lose my joyful news. Let your amen thunder. Let your amen thunder.